Novus, the new voice. Vox Novus, the new dimension. Vox Novus, thought and movement leaders who will share from their experience and offer tools to help us navigate our rapidly changing world. My name is Victor Furman. Welcome to Vox Novus, the new voice. How may combining ancient shamanic wisdom with modern scientific understanding help individuals tap into their inner strength, foster clarity, and cultivate a deeper connection to themselves and the world around them? My guest this week on Vox Novus, Crist, is a globally recognized leader in yoga and modern shamanism rooted in the Karo lineage. As the founder of the Jaguar Path School of Modern Shamanism and the Science of Healing, Ray is dedicated to an academic and experiential approach to shamanism in the modern world. His website is jaguarpath.com, and he joins me this week to share his amazing story of healing, combining Western medicine and science with shamanic wisdom. Please join me in welcoming to Vox Novus Ray Crist. Welcome, Ray.
Hello, Victor. Thank you for having me.
Ray, please share with us your early path and formative years that started in the U.S. and led you to Greece.
Well, I'll try to fast forward, going back and being born in the United States, but I was born of an American father and a Greek mother. When I was 7 years old in 1971, we moved to Greece, which I feel, looking back, was probably the romantic idea of my folks to live in a more exotic, if you want, country. And so as from 7 years old till 40, I essentially grew up in Greece and identified, if you want, as Greek because of all the years, and especially of those years.
Your initial calling was as a photographer, and you became a superstar fashion photographer with magazines like Vogue. How did this unfold for you?
I had a love for arts. I had a love for cinematography. I had a love for photography. I initially started studying cinematography, and quickly brought me into photography. I initially started as a cameraman, and once I got behind the lenses of cameras, I realized that photography is what I was really looking for. And like you said, I was able to climb from an assistant photographer in my early 20s to actually my mid-20s to open my own studio, and by the age of 30 have a really successful career that just went fast up and all the way, like you said, to Vogue covers and all the magazines here in Greece and in Europe. And a lot of advertisement. So I was doing fashion and advertisement.
And what happened in 2003 that interrupted your career and changed your life?
I was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. Out of the blue, I had some pains in my abdomen area, and I just went in and said, well, I might as well go for a checkup. And what the doctors found then was that I had cancer that was moving from my two kidneys, and my lungs, and my liver. And they said, we're really sorry. What you have is incurable, and you're looking at about 3 months of life.
Oh, what was your reaction?
I was absolutely devastated. At the moment, I had just had my son, who was at the moment 1 year old, and I was absolutely devastated because I felt I was in the beginning of my career. It was the beginning of my life. A lot of things were at the beginning, and to have such a short notice for such a short time to live was very, very difficult to swallow.
Now, this happened when you were 39 years old. Many
Correct.
people experience second chapters in their late 30s and early 40s. For you, this came the hard way. In retrospect, why cancer is the conduit for change?
I think any near-death experience and the realization of our mortality brings us to face reality in a very different way. It allowed me or forced me, if you want, to see that a lot of the things that I felt that were priorities in my life, a lot of the emotions that I had, a lot of the everyday life worries that I had, really quickly became not priorities, became not so important. They lost their importance. I realized that I was focusing on many things that were just not that important. There were just emotional turmoils about how I felt about some people, how the stress I had about work, many things that I feel that we kind of all do have in our everyday life. In light of having 90 days to live, there was a sense of realization that, so how do I want to spend these days and these minutes? Because 90 days, you really quickly begin to count in minutes. How do I want to spend my hour to hour? And again, there was a huge, sudden shift of priorities and an importance to everything around me. A lot of things dropped out from being important. There was a realization that I was consuming too much time about emotions, about some feelings, about relationships. And I realized that what would be more important is to be spending time with my infant son and to be spending more time in nature, and essentially, especially that, like to come back to communing with nature. As a photographer, till that point, I had spent more than a good decade in studios, which means only technical light. So, and I would go there at 7 a.m. and leave at midnight. That was I had 90-hour weeks, but I could never really see the daylight, which perhaps was yet another part that contributed to my dis-ease.
How did this start your healing journey, and what did you learn during that time?
I decided to leave Greece and come back to the United States to get a second opinion from John Hopkins, and where I got basically the same diagnosis, and which came this time with only one sentence. When I said, well, is there anything that I could do? And the doctor said, you should take care of your affairs. That really, once again, froze me and got me thinking. So what are my affairs? What do I have to take care of? What is important? What should I do or should be doing? I'll quickly say that while they said that that's what they were seeing, they asked me if I was interested to take part in a study at the National Institute of Health, NIH, in Washington. And my thought was like, well, if I'm dying, I may as well be useful in a study, useful to humanity, become part of a study. And shortly after, still a couple of months after, I'm still alive. I've outlived those original 3 months that they had given me. And I'm sure that a lot had to do with the absolute immediate change of lifestyle and food and quitting smoking and quitting drinking and beginning to do yoga and beginning to eat more vegetarian-based foods. But I'll fast forward and say by 2006, I've had one surgery at the National Institute of Health. 2005, I had one surgery at the National Institute of Health. And then shortly after, a few months later, I flew down to Peru in search of shamans. Because although I had done the one surgery, they were giving me no guarantees because of all the other tumors and things they were seeing in my body.
And why Peru, and why shamanism?
You know, it's funny you say, I did travel through Mexico prior to my surgery, and there, well, two things. I'll go a little further back and say when I was 16 years old, somehow these books of Carlos Castaneda fell in my hands. And Carlos Castaneda was this anthropologist from UCLA who in 1968 wrote his dissertation on medicinal plants and medicine plants. And he went to Mexico to meet with a shaman there to learn about the medicine plants. And he got a lot more than just his dissertation. Carlos Castaneda was a best-selling author through the 70s and all the way to mid-80s, where he died, with published more than 16 books on his apprenticeship with this shaman called Don Juan Matus. So that, from being 16 years old and 17 years old and reading these books, I was really inspired. Big part of me was like, this is what I should do in life. Like this, what is most important than that, to really understand how life works and what is in the unseen world. I remember I used to call it in my mind, it's just what's behind the scaffoldings. Like, I'm seeing the blue sky, I'm seeing this around me, but what's behind it, the greater picture, what creates this. And I really was mesmerized by it. But by the time I became 18, 19, I also got mesmerized by photography, a motorcycle, and life in a city, and got taken for that ride, which I really thoroughly enjoyed. But again, when I came to that halt, what came up for me is it's like, oh, I did not follow that route. When I was young, I wanted to become a shaman, and I just let that go, and I should have done that. And so it reawakened, and hence I traveled through Mexico, where I found many healers. Just didn't really hit it off with someone to feel that they would be my teachers. And after my surgery at NIH, I knew and I've heard that there were a lot of shamans in Peru, so I chose Peru.
And tell us about the lineage of those shamans.
I've worked with 2 or 3 lineages. The main lineage that I work with is called Quero, the Quero Nations people. They live up in the Andes. They live in the Sacred Valley and above. The Queros, when the conquistadors arrived in Peru, in the Sacred Valley, the Queros saw the conquistadors, and as shamans that they said, this is not going to lead to anything good. They will wipe us all out. So the Quero people took off and went higher than the Sacred Valley and higher than Cusco to 16 and 18,000 feet, and created their villages and lived there incognito, away from everything, for more than 500 years. They've started actually coming close to 500 years. Yeah, no, more than 500 years. They started coming down to the Sacred Valley only in the early 70s. And characteristically, one of my teachers and beloved friend and brother, I have to say now, all these years later, 18 years later, having raised my son and watching him raise his kids, and still very close together, connected. We were always in touch. And he actually said to me that it was just wild for him the first time he came down from the mountains to Cusco, Peru, to see a car and to see electricity and running water, because they missed all that. Of course, they also missed the swords of the conquistadors, who literally wiped out almost every person that lived in the Sacred Valley and beyond. The genocide that happened from South Mexico all the way down to Patagonia is essentially Quechua-speaking cultures who held the same lineage with the Queros. And that lineage is a lineage that believes that bows to Pachamama. It's, for me, looking at it, I now, and we'll get into that, what is shamanism in a bit. I'm sure that that will come up as a question, but they are naturalists. So having lived another 500 years more than us, still in those primitive ways, like humanity lived millennia ago, it was astonishing. And they preserved the language, they preserved the cosmology, the Inca. So they're essentially, these are the descendants of the Inca. They were the Inca healers, the healers of the Incas. And they preserved 3 main things: their astrology, the cosmology, under which essentially is described by the astrology, the physiology of human beings, and the psychology.
You had mentioned Pachamama. For those not familiar with the word, please translate.
Pachamama, well, we all know what mama means. It's mother. Pachamama, Pacha means all time and all things and everything. So they refer to the planet as a mother that is all time, in other words, all existence. And the foundation of their cosmology and and their ceremonies and everything they go about, the lineage itself, is that an acknowledgement, a realization that the first thing we must acknowledge and must respect and is our planet, our Mother Earth. Mother Earth is the mother of all things and all beings, from plants to animals to us. Everything that exists on the planet is born of the planet. So their belief system, if you want, or their cosmology, I should say, is a study of nature and how things are born and how things live, from, again, plants to mammals. And in plants and mammals, I'll include us.
So you went to Peru, you were dealing with the cancer. How did you heal?
There were several shamans that I worked with, and there was many times that I said to me inside my heart, this is like, okay, this is it. This is what really made me heal. And this is one thing that I always stress out. Remember that I said that I did a surgery at the National Institute of Health. And I know very well that without that surgery, I would not be alive today. Yet, if I had done that surgery and returned back to being a photographer, returned back to that lifestyle that led me to cancer, it is absolutely clear that cancer would reoccur and that I would die. But the fact that I studied with the shamans allowed me to change the way I think, to change the way I view the world, and allowed me to basically heal, absolutely heal. It was astounding and great, the fact that I would work with the shamans. After my surgery, it is protocol from, I assume, most hospitals, but definitely for the NIH, that post-op, I would initially go and do CAT scans and MRIs every 3 months for the first 2 years. Then it became every 6 months for another 2 years. Then it became once a year for another several years. So we were watching in CAT scans and MRIs things, tumors namely, begin to get smaller and to disappear. Characteristically, my surgeon said, whatever it is you're doing, keep on doing it. I never shared the totality of what I was doing. But definitely what I did do is change who I was. And in all this, going from doctors to doctors, from hospital to hospital, the initial months or over a year was this place where I had lost my power, and I was just hoping that these other people could allow me and help me to live. When I was in Peru and I found myself in front of Don Francisco, who is one of my beloved teachers, and as I said, I consider him, I consider him a brother, a father, I consider him family. Of course, I have immense gratitude towards him and his lineage. I was in front of him and I literally fell on my knees and I said, Don Francisco, please save me. I have cancer. I have a 2-year-old boy at that time, back home. And I want to live to raise this child. And he promptly helped me stand up and he said, I can't heal you, but I can train you to become a shaman and you can heal yourself. Mm. And that was an amazing turning point because it was the first time in all that I was going through. It was the first time that I stood on my own feet. Literally, I stood up and said, okay, I have a say in this. There's something I can do. And so I said, okay, I will become your best student.
So you went from someone who had no hope to someone who was given a new opportunity and new hope, and that new hope was from within.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that new hope was created the shift in my mentality was, we tend to think that we tend to say, oh, I'm sick, let me see what the doctor says. And doctors who are, I bless all the doctors and all the nurses. I'm grateful to all of those who helped me. Grateful, grateful, grateful. Without them, I would not be alive. And one thing is I'm grateful to is for the humanity, the way that they treated me. There's just this beautiful, just really humane, very humane. All my interactions with the doctors and nurses and the hospitals were fantastic. Were beyond what I ever imagined. Yet, doctors have protocols. And they must. It's just the way that it's set up, and they have to rely on their studies, and they have to rely on what they know. So what they knew was what they knew. They didn't know other opinions and what other people, like the shamans of Peru or shamans in any other part of the world, would share. So there was a shift there, and what I'm saying, the more important thing is that I had given my power up to everyone else, to the doctors, a specialist, and I had put myself in a place of being a victim of all this. The moment that Don Francisco said, I can't help you, on one hand, I can't heal you, on one hand, my heart sank, but on the other hand, when he finished the sentence and said, but I can train you to become a shaman and you can heal yourself, that allowed me to say, oh, it was the first time that I stepped into assuming responsibility and knowing that I could play a role in this. I could be not the victim, but if anything, a hero trying. Even if I would die, at least I would die trying.
As they say in the chapter in Luke, heal thyself. And that was the lesson you took.
Absolutely.
My guest is Ray Crist. He's the founder of the Jaguar Path School of Modern Shamanism and the Science of Healing. Ray, please share with our listeners where they can find out about you, the school, and your offerings.
Absolutely. You can find our school at jaguarpath.com. And if you would like to send an email for any questions or any curiosities, it is evolve@jaguarpath.com.
And we'll be back with more of Ray Crist and the Jaguar Path after these words on the Om Times Radio Network.
The cutting edge of conscious radio, Om Times Radio, IOM FM. Om Times Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Om Times, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Let's breathe. Deep inhale. Extend your spine. Exhale very slowly. Find mental health resources at loveyourmindtoday.org. This message is brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ed Council.
Back on Vox Novus, my guest this week is Ray Crist. Ray is the founder of the Jaguar Path School of Modern Shamanism and the Science of Healing. So, Ray, you were talking about your development with Don Francisco. Tell us more, please.
Victor, what happened is once I started studying with Don Francisco, he also led me and allowed me, if you want, in many ways, to visit with other shamans from other lineages. So through my process of studying with these shamans, I quickly came to a moment, and I was actually invited within the second year of my apprenticeship with Don Francisco. He said to me, now that you've healed, I would come back to him with the great news about my CAT scans and MRIs that were looking great. He said, well, now that you've healed, you have to pay it forward. And if you want to remain healed, you can't be selfish. You can't keep this to yourself. You have to teach this with the rest of the world. And my initial reaction is like, well, how am I going to teach this? I'm this white person from Europe, from the United States. How could I teach this? And he humorously, as many times his reactions were, humorously answered, teach it in English. Of course, I quickly understood that what he meant is to teach it in a way that is received, that it's understood, that it makes sense. And what really made sense, and now being in this space of having the Jaguar Path School for so many years, we're close to 17 years or so, approaching 17, I know very well that these tools that these people use that are thousands, literally thousands of years old, have a foundation in being psychotherapeutic tools. Like everything that he led me to is like, so what are your pains that led you to the bitterness? What are the betrayals that you felt in your life that made you feel that you lose interest in or trust in life? What are the relationships in the past that you'd like to cut cords with to not hold you back anymore? So tool after tool after tool, they were all absolutely and are psychotherapeutic tools that come in with metaphor, that come in with a rattle, if you want, with them as a metaphor, feathers. And people laugh about this. It's like, oh, these feathers and these rattles, and they're shaman and scammon. And it's like, sure, there's a lot of shamans out there that are in it for the money, and a lot of shamans that are tourist shamans. But there's a lot of doctors out there that are in it for the money. Also, there's a lot of people in every profession that are in it for the money. And then you go and you see some doctors that are really genuinely interested in saving lives and helping people. And it's the same thing with shamans. There's some people that are genuinely, by personality, genuinely interested in and do everything to do so. Like Don Francisco, who I would say is a renowned shaman. So I created the Jaguar Path on a download from my shamanic journeys. I was instructed to do a 9-month training, symbolizing the rebirth, the gestation period where one is reborn. And it's really clear understanding also through Chinese medicine that in 9 months, every 9 months, we kind of like restructure our nervous system. There's major hardware shifts, if you want. And so I've created the Jaguar Path School of Modern Shamanism and the Science of Healing, based on all of these teachings, but also have included some other things that come from Chinese medicine, that come from yoga, that come from Ayurveda. And I brought together 18 tools, which were the most powerful tools that I feel, that I know had an impact on actually healing, actually saving me from death itself. So we do 9 months, and we meet 1 weekend a month. So we have 9 weekends. The course is 9 weekends. Registrations are still open. We just started, so anyone who jumps in is still in the early stages and can get the recordings and continue with us. And what I've seen is just a beautiful community that is built around, and people of all sorts, from doctors and therapists to body workers to yoga teachers to social workers, and people just simply curious or just simply wanting to find a way to heal themselves. So we create these groups every year, this community that I think takes a beautiful deep dive into what does it mean to be human? And having Greek roots, I still have that curious mind of what Socrates said. It's like, who said, know thyself and you shall know the secrets of the gods and the whole universe. And through my shamanic studies and my yogic studies, I began to realize what that meant. Know thyself and you shall know the secrets of the gods and the whole universe. I used to naively think that these people thought that you'll know the secrets of gods, that there's 12 gods up there. And there's a naivety in our modern society to think that the ancient ones were so naive that they believed that there were 12 gods on Mount Olympus. And that's just simply not true. Just like the cosmology of the Incas, ancient cosmologies really look at the nature of things. So the 12 gods, 6 men, 6 women, symbolize the feminine, masculine, and each one of them symbolized elements of nature. simply put, in a mythology, if you want, so we can understand nature. And in that Socrates, what I understood is like knowing thyself. I always thought that meant it's like, who's Ray and what's my personality about? And it's not that at all. Know thyself means know what you are. So I'm a human being. And what does that mean? It means that I have a body, that I have a nervous system, that I have a meridian system, my internal organs, and my endocrine system. And the more you begin to study all this, just like when I was diagnosed and all those things that I considered important, the emotions and all these things that really drove me either angry or sad or this or that, just as those fell away, I've come to realize that it's not my personality I really want to focus on to understand who I am, but by understanding my physiology and my neurology, my endocrine system, I'm beginning to understand how and what I am. And that makes things very different, because if I can see how does the body get angry, where does anger live, and how do we store it in the body, and how is it processed by the brain, then I'm beginning to feel in a very different way about anger. Because it's one thing to say, well, I'm angry with so-and-so, they cut me off on the highway, now I'm angry at this person, or they spoke bad to me in front of other people and I'm angry at this person. Well, okay, that's an emotion you're having, but you don't know yourself until you know, where does anger happen in your nervous system? What is making you feel agitated? And what more often than not, what really makes you a hostage of it? Because I realized I was hostage to anger and to animosity and to sadness, sorrow. I was a hostage to so many emotions that I was pointing a finger at left and right to people that created it. And my blame to them was just keep on giving fuel to it. And as my emotions would rise, so my blame would rise. And I was a hostage of a situation which was not who I was. It was not who I was at all. It was just what I was trapped in, a way of looking at the world through the Western mentality of saying, well, this is just and this is unjust, and this is how we will revenge, or this is how what we hold as an emotion, and right or wrong. But I took a deeper dive beyond all that, beyond right or wrong, beyond injustices, and took a deeper dive into the nature with these men and women of power. And the Jaguar Path is essentially a big, deep dive into understanding how our internal organs dictate our emotions, and how we can change them, how old stories, trauma, the emotions and traumas that we have that are absolutely valid and absolutely natural mammalian emotions to have: anger, disappointment, feeling betrayal. These are valid, absolutely valid emotions. But there's one thing for an emotion to be valid, and it's another thing for an emotion to just take over and hijack my entire life. It's like saying we wake up in the morning and you're going to work and you're having a beautiful day, you just had an awesome breakfast, it's a sunny day, and someone cuts you off on the highway, and you get so upset that you let that destroy that beautiful sensation you had, an emotion, and essentially let that destroy the rest of your day, and sometimes more than a day. And it's exactly what we do. We have beef with our ex-wife. I see people I had this with my ex-wife. It's 10 years later, people talk about it. And my ex-wife did so-and-so because my ex-wife is a bad person. And they stay stuck. We do. And it's natural because we do not have other escapes or any other way of thinking of this. And here's a beautiful thing is that Carl Jung, the great psychoanalyst, psychotherapist, visited with shamans and brought several of the tools into his office, and actually referred to the shamans, and especially to the shamans of China, and because there's shamans around the whole world. Shamanism is every form of healing before the Middle Ages, where we created medicine and as we know it. But we can get back to that then. I would say Carl Jung called this uncommon sense. And he said that people people fall hostages in common sense. And if everyone says, oh, well, you should be angry at your ex-wife, or you should be angry at a person cutting off, you should yell at someone that disagreed with you, then you follow this common sense, and this common sense keeps you trapped. Where when you go into a deeper dive and you investigate and study emotions and how they work in the body and how they're secreted by the hormonal system, from the endocrine system, from the glands, how they move through the blood, and how they affect your mind, then you begin to see some other ideas. And like Carl Jung said it, you come into this place of uncommon sense. Someone cut me off on the highway, and I'm like, bless you. I hope you arrive home safe, because obviously you're not paying attention. And I retain my center, my being, my beautiful day. I look back in a relationship and I say, okay, well, here's a tool that is amazing and has helped the thousands of people that I've worked with. Cord cutting. Anyone out there listening, do you have a thing that you get upset whenever you hear the word ex-wife or ex-husband? Probably yes. When I cut cords with my ex-wife and I didn't have that energetic cord holding me and tugging me, all of a sudden, all the emotions that this cord was tugging and pulling were not there. They were not triggered. They were not up. I didn't have to think of my ex-wife and get upset on random days and evenings that would just come up to my mind, and then I would just be in a bad mood. So I cut cords with her, and I was free of that. And characteristically, especially with cutting cords, Don Francisco said, well, now because you had all those cords pulling on you, now that they're not pulling on you, you got 5% of your energy back. And you can use this 5% of your energy to actually put it to your immune system, to put it into fighting and releasing this cancer. So tool after tool after tool, all of these tools are psychotherapeutic, are teaching us how the body functions, and are teaching us our relationship with society and how we fall easily into, we want to be a part of community, we want to be a part of our society. So we not only fall easily, we make sure that we abide by the collective conscious ideas of rights and wrongs, of blame, and we live a life that is dictated by that. And although it could be a community or society, it could be a whole country, or it could be the whole Western world, or whatever it is, we are now narrow-minded, and we live a life that's dictated by some points of references that are outside of us. And I'll close to this point, that what happened, and the biggest shift that happened inside me during this process of studying and going through healing processes with the shamans, with the Keros of Peru, was that I moved from reference to reverence. Reverence awoken inside me. My reverence to Mother Earth, to the planet. Reverence to giving offerings to the planet, which till then, as a Vogue fashion photographer, I thought was innocent in best case, or limited. And I realized that the Vogue fashion photographer, me back then, was the one that was limited and innocent or naive. Because when we go into reverence, and when we take a moment to stop and say thank you, Mother Earth, what happens is we go into gratitude. And what does that mean too? Because that's another emotion, like totally opposite from anger. When I go into gratitude, my whole endocrine system shifts. Oxytocin, all these beautiful happiness hormones, all these beautiful empowerment to my immune system begin to really flow through my blood flow and begin to create a new reality inside me and around me.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. I have tears in my eyes from your sharing just now, because you've hit on virtually every truth there is in terms of our relationship with the earth, our relationship with one another, and especially our relationship with ourselves. Let's keep going rather than stop. As we approach 2025, in what ways may shamanism bring calm and clarity to the new year?
Shamanism is not an old way, as many people think. I'll start by saying, when I ventured out to find the shamans, I thought I was looking for something that was rare and was almost going extinct. That is by far not the truth. It is rare and extinct in Europe and in the United States because there was the witch hunt and a massacre of tens of hundreds of thousands of people. Anyone who would say, I light a fire to honor my ancestors, anyone that would get chamomile for their upset belly and peppermint for their congested chest. Now, shamanism is a deep science and a study of the humankind. And it is a study, as I said earlier, in physiology, psychology, and astrology. So as we move into 2025, I think it is now more important than ever for us to return to start studying ourselves. All of the systems and what we're seeing, and this sense of things falling apart that I could easily say that we're witnessing around the world, around the systems of the Western world. It is a result of us moving away from our nature. Moving away from nature, first of all, building our cities, building technology. And don't get me wrong, I love technology and I love my car and my motorcycle, my iPhone, everything. But there's ways that we could perhaps return back into using them and understanding that those are points of references. There is no, reverence should come first. And reverence comes in becoming pragmatic and becoming real. And I want to make this point because it's really important for us. I know and I've met people who believe in alternative medicine only, and they say, I will never go to a hospital, I will never go to a doctor. And I say, that is a wrong way of viewing things. You should get a CAT scan, you should get an MRI. You should, in case of an accident, you want to rush the hospital, they will save your life. And then I meet people on the other side who say, well, the modern science of medicine now, and the hospital is the only thing, and I will never go to a shaman, a yogi, or a Tai Chi master. I will always only do medicine. And I say, well, that's not the way. Well, these are half ways of looking at things. So by using both and talking about why it's important to bring shamanism and not excluding Western medicine, when we say come back to being shamanic, I'm saying use everything that you have at your hands and your disposal to heal yourself. May that be some Western medicine, may it be a hospital, maybe a doctor, checkups. All those things are important to do and keep on monitoring yourself and knowing where you're at. But when you start bringing the shamanic, at least these shamanic tools that we teach at the Jaguar Path, are about saying, okay, well, where was I hurt when I was young? How can I heal that? Because that's taking up, see, what we say is, I see clearly is that the shamans view two things. One is the hardware, what's really in our nervous system and in our endocrine system has created a pattern and is there and just replays a cassette. And that's the hardware. And then there's a software, which is how do I think and process the world in my everyday life? So if in my hardware, if I have a glitch in my software, I have a glitch, these glitches, software and hardware, are going to make me see and view the world not in an absolutely correct way. I won't have if you want, my whole bandwidth to process things, but rather I will have a skewed way of seeing things because I had trauma in the past, because I was hurt by my ex-wife or my ex-husband. For all these reasons, I walk around with barbed wire around me, with defense systems that I now call values, and I think they're values. I am totally unaware that they're playing these programs as software in the back of my brain, which means that when I show up in a room and there's 20 people, I am already predisposed, angry at people that might remind me of my ex-wife or ex-husband, fearful of my people that may remind me of that person that hurt me and that created trauma in my youth, my younger life. And I have all these that are essentially, I go around and I have this recognition pattern system. Like we've created this recently, and even more so in the past few years in technology, the recognition, pattern recognition, and face identification. So we had this inside us, and that's why we created it. So when we see people, when we meet someone to say, hey, hi Victor, hi John, hi Mary, the moment we shake hands, the moment we look at each other, we have a predisposition to this person that is preloaded, and that is in the glitch of my software or my hardware.
Fascinating. My guest is Ray Crist. He's the founder of the Jaguar Path School of Modern Shamanism and the Science of Healing. We'll be back with more of Ray after these words from the Om Times Radio Network.
Humanity Healing International is a small nonprofit with a big dream. Since 2007, HHI has been working tirelessly to bring help to communities with little or no hope. Our projects are not broad mandates, nor are they overnight solutions, but they bring the reassurance that no one is alone and that someone cares. To learn more, please visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Hi, this is Bill Maher. I can find humor in almost anything, but one thing I never laugh about is cruelty to animals. If you don't get the joke either, write People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, 501 Front Street, Norfolk, Virginia, 23510.
So I'm a cat, and I just moved in with this new human, and she's got this little toy she's always playing with, all day long. Tap, 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 bloop, bloop. She can't put it down. There it is. Oh, and get this. She even talks to it. Last week, she asked it for Chinese, and guess what? Egg rolls showed up. Like magic. Humans have cool toys.
A person is the best thing to happen to a shelter pet. Be that person. Adopt. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the ShelterPetProject.org.
Back on Vox Novus, my guest this week is Ray Crist. He's the founder of the Jaguar Path School of Modern Shamanism and the Science of Healing. You were talking about carrying forth those reactions to people who have hurt you in your life. How may these tools be applied for 2025?
The idea of going into 2025 in the most modern times ever with using one of the most ancient tools ever is that I can become real. I can awaken to myself, heal these patterns. So what happens is when I put all these defense systems down and all these barbed wires down, I begin to have a broader view of life. And if there's someone that may be liable to hurt me, to cheat someone or another, or try to rob me of money or anything in any form or way, then I am living now in the space of a wider and broader perception and discernment that not only can I see it from a mile away, they call the shamans seers because they see energy. Not only can I see the energy from a mile away, I can also see where it's coming from. So I said the person that insulted me and hurt me and did this and that, and they try to, and they say now, it's like, oh, Ray, I don't like your yoga, or I don't like this. I do not take any insult, but I can see through where they are coming from. What is the glitch in their software? What is the pain in their body, and where is it held in their body? Why are they behaving aggressively towards other people? Why are people passive aggressive or straight out aggressive? So there's a space of seat of discernment and clarity that comes with an automatic forgiveness and an automatic space for others to be where they're at. Because a hurt person, those are the bad people. The bad people are not just bad because they decided they're going to be bad. They're people that have been hurt, and they're trying to somehow mend their hurt by bringing pain to others, to maybe see, who knows, maybe see how others respond. But whatever it is, once you go through these tools, and especially again in this 9-month training, there's 9 weekends that we go into this deep psychotherapeutic place, we just start plucking these out. And because we're talking about mechanisms of the hardware, really. We don't go deep into story like psychotherapy does, or not like most psychotherapies do. It's like we don't stay in this story. It's like, tell me when you were hurt, and then I was this years old, and that, and people just there's a tendency for people to go to therapists, and again, therapists are great when they're great, because not all of them are. Like not all doctors are, like not all shamans are, like not all car mechanics are. They're not all great, but. When we go into the healing methodology that I teach, that I share through the Jaguar Path training, what we look at is how we take these triggers out. Because whatever story happened to me, is a story that happened in 1970, 1980. It's just not here anymore. And if I just keep on mulching it, and don't allow myself to let it go, at this point, I am holding myself back. Not the perpetrator, not the person that created the trauma. It was wrong. I am right to feel that way. Absolutely. But I also have the right to heal from it. And I also have the right to exile this person from my mind and from my being. Say, okay, you hurt me. I will forever banish you from my existence and from my brain. I will not lend you any more time. I will not allow you to be in my thought process. And even more so, like I said, I don't want these 10 or 20 bad things, difficult things, negative things, any way you want to call them, hurtful things that happen to me. I don't want them dictating my life. Shamans in Peru and the Karen Nation people call themselves the wounded healers. And they share with us something very important, that your wounds don't make you a victim. Your wounds, your hurt, your pain give you the opportunity to become a hero, give you the opportunity to overcome and become a leader. Give you the opportunity to, once you found your way out of that well, the deep hole, whatever it was, to say to another person, my brother, my sister, I see your pain. I understand your pain. I've gotten out of it, and I know the ladder. I know the steps to help you come out of that too. The basic idea is that these tools allow us to come into our full responsibility for ourselves. And there's nothing more liberating, Victor, to know that, you know what? My emotions are up to me. No one can cut me off on the highway, say, Ray, I don't like your yoga, or I don't like your shamanism. No one can really at all insult me or decide what my emotions are inside me.
And there's a shaman within each and every one of us waiting to awaken.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have two voices inside our head, Victor. One voice I call the narrator. And that voice is the voice that says, okay, and I went there and I did that and so said that. You know, we were driving back home after something happened. We do these replays, and it's a useful thing. But also the narrator comes with a specific way of judging things, which is, again, in relationship to reference. So if so-and-so didn't say something that was not politically correct, that was not gender correct, that was not this. And again, all these movements are great movements and hope and try to bring goodness to and equality, and I'm all for goodness and equality. The idea is what all teachers, Christ, the Buddha, everyone that came by, it's like judgment is not the way of being. So in other words, if I can hear, rather to say, one is the voice is the narrator, which basically is common sense and comes, not that common sense that we say that is good, it's almost, I want to say, common Facebook sense or common Instagram. It's there's a lot happening there. The other voice that we have is the shaman. If I step back and don't get emotional about someone, I can make a better decision. I can make a better choice. Because when we're emotionally entangled, and that's the narrator. My students ask me, so, Ray, how do I know it's my narrator and not my shaman speaking? And I'll say this, and you will know it immediately. If there's anything negative, absolutely anything to the least negative, saying, I'm not good enough, I don't have enough money, I'm not tall enough, I can't, I never will, anything that is not saying you are perfect right now, anything that's not saying you are perfect right now is your narrator. And it's a way that we have developed, a way of thinking, the way of thinking of the Western world.
The message and wisdom of my guest, Ray Crist, the founder of the Jaguar Path School of Modern Shamanism and the Science of Healing. Ray, one more time, please share with our listeners where they can find out more about your work and your wisdom.
You can visit us at our website, that is jaguarpath.com, jaguarpath.com. And if you like to send an email with any inquiries, you can send an email at evolve at jaguarpath.com. Our 9-month training runs from November to June every year. At the moment, we already have a beautiful community of 50 people and enrollments are still open. It's still early, so anyone who's interested in making changes and in finding this empowerment in a different and absolutely more advanced way of thinking and acting, we source from these ancient tools. We source from this ancient wisdom to find the gems, to find things that were lost in our perspective as we went through the Dark Ages, especially there a lot was lost, then through the Industrial Revolution, and then through the Technological Revolution. All of these revolutions were great, and to a certain degree have created a more comfortable and safe life for us, but at the same time they've created societies and communities and us who are slaves to working for that car, working for that phone, working for that house. And work is a natural thing, but it's really important to really realize that we're living life. And that's what these shamanic practices can help us heal our past so we can be fully present with a broader awareness in every interaction and be more able in our everyday life.
Ray, you've given us so much to think about. Thank you, sir. I am indebted to you for your sharing today.
Victor, the honor is mine. Thank you. Thank you for having me with you. I really appreciate it, and very much honored to have met you and have had this conversation.
And thank you for joining us on Vox Novus. I'm Victor, the Voice Furman. Have a wonderful week.